I was looking at the new Toy Story trailer and I was just very surprised that we're still doing these. This is probably, I think this is number 5. But they're all old as hell. Even though they're toys, you can hear in their voice they're fucking old. Because the actors are old, obviously. And it's so strange to me that we do this in this country. Maybe it's not just in this country. Maybe it's like the West. I don't know how they do their entertainment in China per se. But I know, like, not to go all like weeboo on you, but anime is very... They'll do like a a series and it'll stop after like 24 episodes, you know? Unless it's Dragon Ball Z or Naruto or, you know, just something big like that. Bleach is going on forever. But those are exceptions. Like in general, it's very short. You know, everything has a beginning, middle, and end. But we don't do that here in America. We keep things going forever. Like The Simpsons. And The Simpsons is really sad because they sound old as hell. Marge sounds like she's been swallowing glass or something. Her voice is just... She has to make a raspy voice, and now it's just like... I don't know. It just sounds terrible. And I don't... I just want to talk about that today. Why in America don't we let things die? And this is kind of like, I guess, a part 2 to my last video, which was all about the gerontocracy, how old people are like taking over everything, but it's not their fault. It's just a natural occurrence of, like, it's a natural consequence, I should say, of extending life. Because now, with modern medical science, people can live for a very long time. I don't know if we're going to get, like, how high the average lifespan is going to go, but it's going to get up there. And it might even go over 100. I don't know if that's going to be a norm for my generation, or if it's like, you know, like a couple generations under Gen Alpha, you know. And there are a lot of things working against that too. I mean, the processed food itself being processed is not bad, because processed could just mean, you know, like you took a cow and you cut it up, like that's processed food technically, or all the ingredients in your jam are all natural. Like it's just the fruit and sugar, and that's it. But that's still processed because you're putting it in a jar. It went through a factory, you know, or even someone's house, and that's processed. But typically when people think of processed stuff, they think of like injected with chemicals, has a stable shelf life, that's very unnatural compared to what you'd see, just like a fruit laying there would be going bad in a few days. But if you use GMOs and stuff like that, which is something different, but this is just an example, like it'll last a long time. And people consider chemically enhanced food processed. And a lot of people believe that those chemicals can harm you because your body can't break down the food properly. So like certain chemicals like stay in your bloodstream and cause cancers and stuff. I believe in the science, you know. I don't think that's like 100% healthy for us, but I don't think it's as bad as, you know, like having, like, being stressed all day. I think being stressed all day is probably the worst thing for your health. I think being relaxed, but like our country is not going to promote that information. You know, they don't want you to know that being stressed is the number one cause of like heart disease or whatever. They're going to say it's like unhealthy eating or something like that. because you need, like, our country needs people to be stressed because they need people to work, and they need people to work as much as possible. And that's another thing. Like, when you work, there's a natural, I'm going to work this much. I'm going to feel tired. This day, maybe I work like 2 hours and then I feel tired. Or maybe I work 3 hours nonstop and I feel tired. Another day I'll work 9 hours straight because I just feel like I can. But in the normal work environment, you're expected to work, like full time, that amount, like 40 hours a week. You're supposed to be working that much, no more, no less. And it's very unnatural. So that's just something very American. It's unnatural length of productivity. We take these entertainment properties and we keep them going unnaturally. Like, Toy Story should have ended, in my opinion, at 2, because that was a natural ending. But they were like 10 years later, they were like, okay, we're going to make Toy Story 3. And it's going to be significantly different from 1 and 2. Totally new environment. It's no longer about, like Toy Story 1 and 2. Toy Story 1, Woody and Buzz get lost, right? They if I'm remember, I haven't seen the movie in a while, so I think what happens is they go to they get lost at Pizza Planet. Is that right? I think they knock each other out of the car and then they get lost at Pizza Planet and then they got to find their way back, or I don't know what. Somehow they end up at Sid's house and then they follow Andy's moving away and they follow him to the moving van. I don't remember, but the point is, like, they're lost and they it's kind of like the Odyssey where they got to make their way back home. And it's the same thing with part 2. So those two are very coherent. They're very cohesive with each other. They're very congruent with each other. The stories mirror each other. It's very much a I don't know. It's very much like it's like poetry. It rhymes, as George Lucas would say. But Toy Story 3 is a little different. And I don't know. I personally don't really care that much for Toy Story 3. I know a lot of people love it. I know, like, I grew up with Toy Story 1 and 2. So I was like a little kid when it came out. And then Toy Story 3, I was the right age for Toy Story 3 because I was getting close to going to college. And so, like, seeing Andy all grown up and like saying bye to the toys, it was very emotional. It was very cathartic. Yeah, but looking back, Toy Story 3 was very much all about callbacks and fan service, and fan service and callbacks don't really age that well, in my opinion, especially if you're making something that's supposed to last a long time. Like, if you're making a trilogy, why in the third one would you make a bunch of callbacks to the first two when people in the future are probably going to see the trilogy like one after the other? Like, it should feel like just one big story. But another trilogy that does this really well is the original Star Wars. A New Hope was very much a self-contained little pulp story, and it did not need a sequel. I'm glad we have 2 sequels after that, but it did not need one. And I don't even think it was like meant to have one, or maybe it was. I don't know. I forget like all the lore about Star Wars, because that's another thing that went on forever. But just to talk about the original trilogy really quick, is the second one in the trilogy, The Empire Strikes Back or The Return of the Jedi? I always get those confused, the titles. It must be The Empire Strikes Back, right? It must be, yeah. So, right? I don't know. I don't want to look it up in the middle of me recording. I am losing like all nerd credibility right now. But so let's just say the second one's called The Empire Strikes Back, because that's what happens. The Empire Strikes Back, and then on what I noticed rewatching the original trilogy is that the second and third movies were designed to be followed up on one another, because if you watch A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, they just feel well, not the first one, but the second and third feel like one movie. So it really confuses me when people are like, the second one is the best, the third one sucks. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It feels like one movie. It feels like the end of the second one directly leads right into the third one, and it just feels like one big movie if you watch those two together. But anyway, talking more about Star Wars as a franchise, that thing has they don't let it die, and they cannot let it die. Disney doesn't let anything die. They are the masters of keeping things alive. They kept their copyright on Steamboat Willie for Mickey like going forever. They try to keep it going forever, but it extended copyright law boundaries and limits to an absurd level, to where I think they finally just said, we're not going to let you copyright Steamboat Willie forever. You know, like there needs to be an endpoint somewhere, so we're going to make it now. So now we have a limit on like copyright. But Disney still wants things to last forever. They're not only doing that, they're buying entire universes. They're buying universes. They have their own Disney like universe that's not interconnected the way like Star Wars is, but they bought the Star Wars franchise, and they were like, damn, like I forget. They had Marvel first. Yeah, they had Marvel first. And the thing about Marvel is that you can have a giant interconnected universe because that's how the comics are. And they experimented with that, and they were like, we're gonna make movies, and it's gonna be like comics. It's gonna be like a continuous story that keeps going and going and going. And there's gonna be shows. There's gonna be like interconnectedness between that, and there will be other media, that it all tells one big universal story. The thing is, a universal story like that is it turns into a lot to manage, and there's inevitable inconsistencies within the plot, and not just inconsistencies with the storytelling. There's inconsistencies with the quality as well. And then there's choices that are made that need to be retconned because they've written themselves into corners. But the thing about this is that it comes with a giant like fandom, you know, that will just consume whatever slop you give them, because that's what they're comfortable with, and they love these characters, and they're going to keep watching them no matter what. You could make the shittiest thing and they'll still watch it. And a lot of people are noticing that you can do that now, unfortunately. Like Star Trek, for instance. Star Trek is a terrible, like, it used to be the pinnacle of science fiction in terms of like philosophical storytelling, lessons being learned, character development. And now it's trash. You know, they're trying to make it like everything. They're trying to make it like action, intrigue, adult. They're trying to make it for kids. And it's none of that. It's philosophical, and it's episodic, and it's pulp. And it's not supposed to be like Jason Bourne, you know? And you're seeing this everywhere. You're seeing this with games. They keep making fucking games. Series go on forever. God of War is a good example where There was the original games where Kratos was a young guy in his 30s, I think, or late 20s. I don't know. He looked like he was like 30s or 40s. And he killed all the gods. Spoiler, he was angry and he killed all the gods all the way up to Zeus. And so they were like, where do we go from here? Oh, let's go to Norse mythology because that's hot right now. And it was in the 2010s thanks to Skyrim, which is another another thing, another series. Bethesda, they keep milking. It's not, they don't let Skyrim die is another thing they're not letting die. Skyrim has been re-released so many times. They're coming up with another one for the Switch. There's the remastered edition. There's the anniversary edition. Like, what are we doing? What I could blame companies for this. You could blame them, but it's not the company's fault. It's the consumer, and the consumer keeps buying bullshit. And because they reliably buy bullshit, they don't reliably buy into new ideas, creative things. It just keeps going. It just keeps going. And that, like, I've seen this with also restaurants, local restaurants. There are restaurant, and you see this a lot in Kitchen Nightmares, which is Gordon Ramsay's one of his reality shows that he recently like revived. I don't know if they canceled it again, but like it's another thing that they keep going. But restaurants themselves, they will be hot in like the 90s. But then they'll never change anything. But even though they don't change anything, a lot of customers will come in, and they've been going there for years and years. Even a restaurant that's close to my house, my mom has gone. Both my parents, honestly, have gone there since it opened, because it was a local bar and it was decent. And they still go there, and it's been almost 20 years, and they're still going, and the same people go. And is that just that? I mean, that's basically what a business is. They keep just providing a service over time, but like, that's okay for a restaurant. Not every restaurant needs to reinvent itself. If it's working, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But when it comes to creative things, I think there is a need to step aside these old properties in order for new properties to come through. So, for instance, a recent example is Rick and Morty. They keep making that shit. I don't know if it's been canceled or not, or they're finally having their last season. I've stopped watching a long time ago, and it has nothing to do with was it Justin Roiland? Justin Roiland had a controversy. And he did all the voices, but then they found someone who could do them exactly the same. That's not why I stopped watching. I stopped watching way before Justin Roiland left. And it was just too much. It was like the story seemed to be going nowhere. It was always, Rick hates his family, but he secretly likes them, but he doesn't want to admit it. And then every season they get a little closer together, and then they get apart, and then they get closer together. Like, it never ended. They had a story that looked like it was going to have a definitive ending, and it was going to go along a certain, as the creator likes to call it, a story circle with a beginning, middle, and end. And that just ended up not happening. They kept having a beginning and middle, and a beginning and middle, and never an end. And that's the issue with a lot of these things. They never end. And how are we supposed to have creativity when these old ass things do not step aside and retire, And like, this also goes into the gerontocracy conversation, where old people are not stepping aside for the younger generation. They're not. Senators are in office until they die, until they fucking die. It doesn't matter if they have dementia. It doesn't matter if they're in a wheelchair. They're there forever. And old people keep electing them. which is funny because it's like if you're old, you should know that your mental capabilities are getting worse. So why are you voting for someone older? Because you think they're wiser than you? They're not wiser than you. But it's also because they're voting for old people's interests, which is something I talked about in the last video. And it's selfishness at the end of the day, because old people are keeping housing prices high. They're saying they're being NIMBYs. And this is not old people, but this is a generalization, because this would not be occurring if this were not happening. So I don't know. I love old people, you know. I love the old people in my life. I don't have my grandparents anymore, but my best friend, I'm at her house all the time. I love her grandma. Her grandma has me call her grandma. And I'm not saying we need to get rid of old people. That's insane. I'm saying they should not be in the driver's seat, is what I'm saying. They should not be in Congress. I think Joe Rogan said this, and I do not like Joe Rogan. I used to like him when he didn't have such a big sphere of influence. He has too much influence now because he's retarded, and he needs to not have a political voice that other idiots are parroting. But he said that it's very strange that that our Senate and our Congress is very primal, in the sense that we are one big tribe. America's one big tribe of monkeys, and we have the oldest monkeys ruling. We have the oldest monkeys, the Elder Council, and they're calling the shots, but they're too fucking old. We should have people 50s. 50s is a good age for a congressman to be. 60s is pushing it. 70s is too much, and our senators and stuff are 80. Our president is 80 already, and he is shitting himself, and he is suffering from some kind of heart ailment that's making his ankles swell up to twice their size, and he is getting bruises on his hands and rashes on his neck. We do not want the fucking the God Emperor from Warhammer 40K ruling our country. We do not Joe Biden too. He was very bad. He was basically a corpse that they were walking onto stage, and he was every time he would stumble or fall, people legitimately thought he was gonna die because he's so frail. I don't even know how I don't even know how he's still alive, to be honest, because he was old as hell when he was in office, and now Trump is even older. And all of these people do not need to see the consequences of their decisions in office, because they're going to be gone. So right now, ironically, they're doing the least wise things. They're doing the things that will make them the most money that they can. They're doing the things that can make them the most money so they can pass on the wealth to their own children. Going back to elite overproduction again. And the solution to this thing would be term limits, obviously, or age limits. So you can't be a senator for too long, or you can't be a senator of a certain age. But they're not going to vote themselves out of office. So I don't know. The people who make the laws are not going to make laws against their own interests. I mean, Democrats might, progressive Democrats might. If we get enough young people into Congress, which probably won't ever happen, they might do that. But yeah, that's the reason why this country is failing. And it all comes down to business. It all comes if you examine any problem in this country, any problem whatsoever, any problem, you can go down into the root cause through a line of deduction Like what caused this? And keep going down. For example, what's a problem in our country? Senators are old. Okay? So why are senators so fucking old? Because they are reliable. You already know them. You know what they're gonna do, and it's not just voters who vote these people in, and the reason they're voting them in is because the old people are. The Congress is keeping the president, honestly, whoever's in charge of setting the fiscal type constraints on the economy, which the Federal Reserve, and they report kind of directly to the president. So old people vote for a president who is going to keep their property values high. There we go. That's money. Congress is old because the voters are old, but also because the moneyed interests in politics, which would be the corporate donors and the elite class, they like these old ass politicians because you already know what they're gonna do. They're reliable. They already have their partnerships with certain companies and certain interests. They have blackmail on them, as we've seen with the Epstein files, that they can reliably leverage this blackmail over them. And yeah, it's all because of money. It's all down to money. Anything wrong in this country, you could follow the through line and put it back into money. So the solution is different for creative stuff. I mean, it's also the cause is the same. Businesses don't want to invest in new ideas because new ideas are unreliable. New ideas you don't know how they're going to perform. They could be the best thing that was ever created, or most likely it's going to be something that's not even good, because there's plenty of quality television coming out that no one's watching. Apple TV has all these shows with star-studded casts and the best writers, and no one's watching Apple TV, bro. I saw Seth Rogen's The Studio, a new idea about a movie executive who has a passion for movies, but he's facing these pressures from the executives to make slop. And it's a really good show, and I don't even like Seth Rogen's movies, but I like this show. I think it's really good. Nobody watched it. Nobody is watching it. It has insane reviews. It's super good. But no one watches this shit because it's like a new idea that is on a platform that actually fosters new ideas, and no one's on it. Everyone's on Netflix watching season 70 of Stranger Things, the animated edition. Because it could also be that, that's people choose that because that's what they're comfortable with, and no one wants to stray away from things and try new things. Nobody really likes to explore because we're all tired at our jobs, and we just want to go home to something that's comforting. And it's not nostalgia, but it's very similar to nostalgia in the sense that it's, how would you say it? It's something that you're familiar with, that you can keep going back to, and you get the same dopamine hit, and you keep going back to it, and maybe it's not as good as it used to be, but now the relationship is just so tightly bonded to your soul that you can't stop. I can't stop watching Kitchen Nightmares. I can't stop watching reality television. I can't stop indulging in nostalgia. So I'm not trying to act holier than thou, but I do like to, on occasion, give new ideas a chance. And I think it would be great if studios had the same incentives, but they don't, because the consumer decides what gets approved. So I think in the past, right now I'm trying to figure out why in the past was it so creative. And I think the economy was better. I think there was less cutthroat competition. Like right now, the creator economy, let's say movies, just media in general, they're all competing with each other because it's not just a few companies anymore. It's me and you. We're also making stuff in this economy now. And studios have to rely more and more on the hits. They have to rely on what's good. And like, I can even bring the music industry into this, because back then, we'll say from the 60s onwards, it was extremely creative. It was extremely, extremely creative. Like, that's why we don't let go of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s music, because in the 2000s, they standardized what music should sound like on the radio, because there used to be independent radio stations, and then one company was allowed to just scoop them all up. And that's still going on today. And that's iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio is scooping up all the radio stations all over the country, and they're just standardizing, and they're pushing their artists that they want to be successful. But we don't need radio anymore. We have Spotify, and radio is competing with Spotify, and they're having a losing battle with these streaming services because it's old media. And so is cinema, unfortunately. I love going to the movies, but they're competing with Netflix. So they have to run the hits. They have to appeal to... That's why you see a lot of remakes of movies. You see... I'm going to bring up the RoboCop like remake, but that was like a decade ago. But that's just one example. They keep making the Scream movies. There's a new one out right now as I speak. And that's because they have to rely on the hits. They have to get people in seats in the movie theater. There's a smaller barrier to entry with streaming services because they're already on the thing you're on. They're on your phone. They're on your computer. They're on your TV. So they just have to keep putting content out there for you to they have to jingle the keys in front of you. They have to flash colors in your eyes. They don't have to make good stuff. Like, no one has to make good stuff anymore because it's all a competition for attention. And it's about the promise of what you're going to get. You're going to get the new Fast and Furious movies, what you're familiar with. And it's about family, and it's about cars, and it's about crazy stunts. And every movie is this. They're not trying to be Shakespeare. They're not trying to say a new idea. You know, they're not trying to change your perspective on things. They're telling you what you already know. Family is great. Cars are cool. I love stunts and explosions. And for a lot of people, for the average person, that's what they love. And that's okay. I think that's fine. If some people don't have anything else in their lives, you know, maybe there is somebody who loves Fast and Furious and that's all they have. And I think that's okay. But like, that should not be what's driving. That should not be the only thing. And even A24, for the longest time, A24 was like, we're gonna put all our eggs in the creativity basket. We're gonna throw money and big budget at like the most creative directors. And that worked for a long time. But even now, like, you're starting to see that they're getting to be a bigger company and with that comes more risk every time they greenlight a project. So now there's a phenomenon appearing called the A24 style of movie, where it is quote unquote elevated horror or like highbrow cinema, and now and muted colors. Like, if you want to know why we keep fucking seeing muted colors and everything, it's probably because of A24. They started that trend, but we loved it. And now it's just a trend. It's another trend that they keep extending, and it keeps spreading. And what is the solution? You know, like, I think nostalgia plays a big part. Again, that I'm bringing this up because I wanted to say that the reason you keep seeing remakes is because old people are the ones who, like, I would say like 40s and up are still on that old media shit. They're still on, I want to see the new what's the 80s movie that they're remaking? I can't even think of one because there's so many. They keep making this shit. You could probably tell me in the comments like 50 80s movies that they're reviving, you know. Karate Kid was one of them. You know, it was a lot more egregious last decade that they kept making movies, or remaking movies, I should say. But I think the solution, and where you even see this in the video game industry, like, not to keep going, I'm just gonna say, like, the AAA video game industry, they keep making Call of Duties, they keep making Fortnite is not dying anytime soon. They keep, like, Fortnite, I think, is not the best example because they do try to reinvent the wheel. They do have like seasons and they try to change up things. You know, instead of making a Fortnite 2, like, why would you when you could just update the original Fortnite to make it look different, totally different, you know? And that's good. That, like, I think that's good, but at the same time, it is another example of things that don't die because there's so much money behind it. And so when it comes to video games, where is the creativity at? I'll tell you where it's at. It's in indie games. In independent games, like any independent game is 10 times more creative than a AAA $100 million game, because it's coming from one person's ideas, one person's art style, one person's gameplay that they just thought would be cool. And that's where all the creativity is now. It's in our hands. We have you don't need to watch movies. Well, I mean, you should watch movies actually, but like there's movies on YouTube made by people like you and me that are extremely creative, and they, like, it's the tools to make something cinema quality are getting cheaper and cheaper. Like a DSLR camera is probably higher quality than like a film camera from like the 70s, you know? And we have the tools now, like lighting is really cheap, you know? You could go get actors from your local like theater group to be in your movie. And yeah, you might have to pay them, you should pay them, but like they might want to do it for free just to help out, just to do like a creative project and get their resume up. And you don't even need to distribute it through a studio. You could distribute it through YouTube. You could make music in your room and put it out yourself with DistroKid or CD Baby. And I guess I've convinced myself in the middle of this video the solution. It's it's us. We're the solution, because we're all competing. We're all competing in this big thing. And the competition is for attention, people's attention. Even I'm doing it right now. I'm competing for your attention. I don't know if I maintained it. In one of my longer videos that I just posted, people only stayed on it for like 4 minutes, but it got a lot of, relatively, it got a lot of views for me. Because I've been having like lately kind of a slump, which is fine. It happens. I'm not going to give up on YouTube. Like, I'm going to keep going, because that's what you should do if you want to make it in this platform. So yeah, if we don't let things die, not if we don't let things die. I'm saying we don't let things die. It's all for money, but there's still creativity out there if you know where to look, and you're willing to put up with a little bit, things that are a little more rough around the edges. Like, that's what indie is. Indie has always been rough around the edges, but it's always been way more creative than the mainstream. Way more. Indie music, indie games, indie movies. It's always way more creative, but it's never as polished. Almost never, I should say. Sometimes it is, but for the most part, it's not. And you got to learn how to put up with that. And once you do, you will probably never go back, and you'll start complaining about the state of things just like me. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I don't know if this was... I don't know. You know, why am I doubting this? This is slop. This is... If you look at my playlist, this is crude slop. This is like unrefined oil. This is like it hasn't been put in the refinery. This is right from the ground. This is right from my brain. So yeah, it's not going to be good, but it's good. Like the ideas per minute are going to be more. Anyway, that's it. Come to the next one. Goodbye.